In this episode, we want to talk about bass drum dampening, which is a very important thing. Now, we played at the club last weekend, and I got a chance to hear what this drum sounded like. In my last drum talk, I changed out the heads. I swapped out the batter head for a Power Stroke 3 coated, and I swapped out the Rezo head for a Power Stroke 3 ebony. And on my last drum head, it was a Pearl logo head, and it had a port that somebody did a kind of a sloppy job cutting. And on that port, on the inside of the drum, it had a port template cutting tool, and it was stuck to the inside of the bass drum. So I kind of thought, that might be robbing the tone. You shouldn't have a hard piece of plastic stuck to any drum head, especially a bass drum. And I'm trying to get away from the ports. If you're going to mic up a drum, sometimes the sound engineers love that port being there, but I'm trying to avoid that. Just like how I'm trying to avoid having a Pearl logo on here. I don't want to advertise for Pearl. I am going for a clean, wide, a clean, undampened bass drum. And that's what I did. So at the club, the sound engineer put a mic up to it, and when we did the sound check, I noticed that I was getting tons and tons of overtones. It did not sound like this. It sounded like a boom, not a boom, but a boom. And I thought, that's interesting. Because I'm still kind of experimenting with this. Now, if I would stay on the beater, if I laid into the beater, it would make a different sound. But it wasn't a very good sound. When you have a drum that has no port, there's a lot of air that can't escape, and when you bury the beater, it doesn't produce a very good sound. So you always want to let off of the beater, like this. Not bury the beater. You let off of it. And that's where I was getting that boom. So the sound engineer made it work. And we had a good show. It went fine. So now I'm thinking, okay, I need to figure out a way to dampen this drum. And you can lay a towel on the floor right here, just enough to let it lay on that drum head and dampen this Rezo head. That would work. Then the microphone won't pick up that extra second of sustain. The other thing you can do is use felt strips. But you can't just use a felt strip on the batter side. You're still going to have the same issue with the mic picking up all those overtones. So you want to put felts on both the Rezo and the batter head. That's really your best bet, is to put a felt strip both heads. But I got to thinking, and I had an old friend who played drums for a church. And he gave me a couple pieces of advice. One of them was about drumstick sizes. And he recommended the 747, which I'm going to do another video talking about that, because I did come up on a couple more stick lots, both 747s, and I've actually switched to that size. I love the 747s. He also gave me another piece of advice, which was very, very cool. He had a friend who actually used packing peanuts inside his bass drum. You are not going to hear anybody talking about that. I've never heard anybody suggest that. And I don't know how many people on YouTube are talking about that, but that's actually a thing. So as you can tell, there is probably about a third the way I put packing peanuts in here, about that far. And let me tell you what, it's absolutely perfect. It's making contact with both heads, so it doesn't matter how this thing rolls, you know, in the van, going to the club, set it down. Every time you set it down, look, it's gonna be down at the bottom, and it's gonna make contact with both heads every time. It don't matter how you shake this thing, it's gonna be making contact. So you don't have to have a port hole to gain access into the drum to reposition your towel every time, or your pillow. You're not going to see a pillow sticking out of a hole either, which is very ugly if you ask me. I really like the look of a full unported head on the front. So that's my piece of advice to you. And if you can steal some packing peanuts from the shipping department at work, give it a whirl. I don't think anybody else on YouTube's talking about that, but that was the coolest piece of advice, and I'm putting that to use here. Also, the peanuts they're weightless, so it's not going to add any amount of weight to your carrying at all. Totally weightless. Don't matter how you shake this thing, they're always going to settle down at the bottom and make contact with the heads. You're never going to have to worry about dampening again. And I really hear that? Much better. I don't have that problem anymore. So that's my advice to you. And the sound engineer also gave me another tip, a pro tip. He said, when setting up, do not carry your stuff up on the stage and set up there. When you go in, obviously make contact with the owner and make sure you're still scheduled to play that night and they didn't cancel you without notice. After you've done that, go in and kind of scope the club out and find a place in the corner where nobody's at. Carry your stuff in and drop it off there. Unpack it there and put your snare on your stand, put your cymbals on the stands, unpack your bass drum, get everything unpacked, And then when the stage is looking like there's not too many people working up there, like, they might be pulling a lot of cords and the other guys might be setting up their amps. When people are kind of done, then you're clear to carry your stuff up and set them into position. And that makes you look like a pro. Instead of being up there and you're tripping over bags and people are trying to work around you and you're setting up. Don't be up on the stage doing that. Definitely unpack off the stage and then carry it up, set it up. So gang, that is my advice. That is my drum talk tonight. I'm glad that you joined me. I've gotten a few more subscribers. I got 125 now, and my channel's growing slowly. Slow like a turtle, but it's growing. Stay with it, and I'll see you in another video.